Hello everyone, I would like to welcome you to my channel. Today I would like to discuss with you, show you material concerning game called Gods of War Togo. This is a game from the small Polish publisher GM Board Games, but this is their third game actually, bearing the name Gods of War. Two previous games were dealing with the land conflicts, mainly with the Napoleonic era and with the American Civil War. So this time the game is totally different with totally new mechanic. This material that you're about to watch, I recorded it actually in October because I went and took part in the game premiere event. So as you can see, the game is fairly new actually, but the material is not very fresh. I think it's still a very good representation of what the game is about and how the game plays. Therefore, I decided to simply make an English version of it, because obviously its original version was in Polish. After the main material, I will have a few closing words, and now, without further ado, please check out this game. So, short version, what is this game all about? Obviously, it is not hard to decipher that the very core of the game puts us in a role of a captain, commodore or admiral commanding ships in sea battles. When we think of sea battles, it is not necessarily the time period that is being proposed by the authors of the discussed game. But in fact, if you fancy battle of iron behemoths spewing smoke and fire while rocking on the waves of seas and oceans, this is the period. End of 19th century and beginning of 20th marks a time of great advancements in the area of sea warfare. We have new ship designs, new ship classes, new armaments and ammunition, bizarre ideas and ideas that stick. And amidst all of that, we do not have airplanes and in principle no submarines either. What we have are duels, unmitigated and clean, hulls against cannon fire, speed against torpedoes, your will against consuming fire, and water slowly flooding your punctured hulls. Well now, let's talk some game basics. Every ship we choose to include in our fleet will have a card, just like one on the screen belonging to the Japanese battleship Mikasa, which served as a flagship for Admiral Togo. I will honestly say that after seeing this card for the first time, with all of its statistics, cannon ranges and calibers, speed gauges, armors, hulls and so on, I thought to myself, I think I'm gonna like this game. So, what's really on the card? Well, so-called pizza slices shows various guns, their classes and fields of fire. The heaviest pieces are in towers, of course, but this is still an era when broadside is a thing. Color shows how powerful given gun battery is. Red are the heaviest, then yellow and green the lightest. Medium and light gun sometimes comes in two variants, like the green ones seen here on the Mikasa. We also have blue ones, usually on lighter ships. These are torpedoes, very unreliable in that time, but no less deadly with some luck. Under a warship silhouette, we see its armor, and under it, ship's hull, which translates to our behemoth's durability. Enemy fire will chip away at our precious hull. We will mark it by filling out small squares. When we get to the colored ones, it will mean losing one of our batteries of matching color. On the right side of the card, we see name of our ship and its class. Mikasa is a first-class ship, which makes her the heaviest ship's class in a game. Below we see maneuverability, which grants our ship its max turning capabilities during movement. Next, there is a speed gauge in three ranges: slow, half and full speed. Now, few words about movement itself. Our warships move using two speed indicators / movement dials. We set up appropriate settings for course and speed, and we do this in secret. Two dials mean that we have to make decisions when it comes to movement for current turn and the one after it, which is a neat mechanic. Once course is set, we cannot change it. After all, warship is an object of considerable size and it cannot halt or alter course in a split of a second. So captains beware. It is not unheard of for greenhorns to ram their own ships in tight formations. We always need to have two orders ready. So once we use the first one, the second one becomes the first. And we set up recently used dial as a second order, and so on. I'm sure you're getting it. Every speed range can have 3 different maneuvers. To add to interest and authenticity, speed on consecutive orders can change only 1 notch either side. Meaning, if your ship was sailing with a slow speed, you cannot speed up to full speed with your next order. You will be able to do either full stop or half speed. This is a general rule from which one can deviate if your ship have a special rule called high maneuverability. Still, with all your warships, you have considerable degree of control despite being forced to follow orders you have earlier set up. For example, if we are planning a turn, we need to take it, although we can turn between minimal required 15 degrees and maximum for a given ship. Similarly, when it comes to speed, if we choose to go full ahead, shown here USS Brooklyn can move between 19 and 21 knots. As you were able to observe, turning is dealt with in a simple and non-controversial way, potentially of course. Warships turn at the end of its move, although again we can have exception from this rule for mentioned already high maneuverability ships. Those can turn 15 degrees before its movement and then continue turning to desired angle at the end of the move. Now, let's discuss the part when we dispatch boats of our hated enemies and turn them into non-functional submarines. Let's talk firing. Next to each present on our ship gun type, we see its maximum range and its armor penetration capabilities in 3 ranges. Ranges are arbitrary and are as follows: long above 20 inches, medium between 10 and 20 and short below 10 inches. As you can see, the bigger the gun, the more power it will have and more damage it will cause, obviously. And basically the same goes for range, closer equals better. There is one more range actually called point blank. It's below 5 inches and in such circumstances we can reroll all misses. All firing is being done after movement. We declare what we want to shoot with and only then we are allowed to measure if we are in range and what range will it be. Before declaring, we can only check if a target is in our field of fire, but the range, again, need to be guessed. If we decided to shoot, our adversary can choose to counter fire with all his batteries that did not fire yet this turn. In this case, both sides are considered to fire simultaneously. To check what it takes for our fire to be effective, we have artillery table. It does look a little bit daunting, but surely not for all of you wargaming veterans out there. Anyway, to check what we need to roll on d6s to score a hit, we cross-check values on this table. For example, if our firing ship is a second-class vessel shooting with her medium guns at class 3 ship in medium range, we need 4s to score hits. How many dices we will roll depends on number of guns in our batteries. Seen here, USS Brooklyn could muster as many as 12 medium gunshots, 8 on each side and 4 more in her turrets. Of course, we don't have to fire everything all at once. We can aim at different targets or reserve some of our shooting power for counter-battery fire. So, if we scored some hits, we check our AP power according to range. As you can observe here, our US armored cruiser AP power will be 11 in this case. Next, we check AP penetration table, something very recognizable if you are a 40k player. Here we check what d6 values are needed to penetrate armor of enemy ship and to damage her hull. If our AP power equals armor of enemy ship, we need 4+. If our AP is bigger, 3+. If twice as big as our enemy armor value, 2+ will do. And process get reversed when our AP is less than enemy armor. Last thing to consider is what sort of damage we will cause. Again, pretty straightforward procedure. Every hit from heavy gun that manages to penetrate opponent's armor causes 1 full square of hull to go bye-bye. Medium guns cause 2 small squares of damage and light hits 1 small square. I must say it is pretty cool that even when you do not have a chance to damage enemy ship hull, and this is the case when enemy's vessel armor is twice as big as your AP value, you still should and need to roll for penetration. If you get 6s, you will cause fires on board your enemy ship, which if not contained may spread and wreak havoc on a given vessel. Rolling natural 6s is also beneficial if your AP is adequate. In such cases, apart from causing a damage to a hull, you also score a critical hit. This can turn into quite a few things, for example, damaging the rudder, hitting the bridge, or even in the right circumstances blowing up the ammo store, causing massive or ultimate damage to enemy vessel. And there you have it. These are the basics of the game. The question now would be, how does this play in reality? Well, in my honest opinion, this is a gorgeous game. I do have few battles under my belt already, but even when I was observing a small skirmish at the game premiere event, I instantly fell in love with Togo. In this small battle there were only 2 ships per side, well 3 actually, but small vessels such as torpedo boats and destroyers are fitted to a base. Anyway, this skirmish, although being a very small game, was still fascinating to watch as it unraveled. Winner was unknown until the very end. The thing is, Gods of Battle Togo is a small game. I mean, usually when you construct a fleet you will get a few ships, even in quite large battles. In such a game, in my opinion, you need to have a medium to high level of complication when it comes to rules. Otherwise you will end up with a dull dice rolling nothing else. Togo seems to do well in this regard. Rules by themselves are quite simple, I would say, but when you add special rules for ships, critical hits, fires, floats, plethora of very different vessels with various capabilities, different gun batteries, maneuverability and armor, you get a complex game. Not difficult, but complex, and I'm sure you can enjoy it for quite some time. Things that can happen during a game are quite astonishing, very cinematic and full of flavor. For example, in a mentioned skirmish at the game premiere, Spanish destroyers managed to get close to our American armored cruiser. Smaller vessels torpedoed the cruiser, which caused fires and flooding. Yet these were contained by brave American crew, and larger ship was able to open fire after escaping destroyers. Salvos happened to be very accurate and caused a lot of damage to already battered destroyers. This, in the aftermath, caused Spanish destroyer captain to put a white flag on his squadron. At the end of his small battle, 2 main ships of both fleets faced each other, and was, well, maybe not totally surprising, but super flavorous. Check it out for yourselves. Both ships sustained heavy damage already. Still, Cristobal Colon was in much worse shape than American vessel. Raging fires and floodings were not something the depleted crew could deal with efficiency anymore. However, Spain's warship was still a threat. Its 10-inch gun in operational tower was still able to punch big holes in USS Brooklyn, given chance. Therefore, American vessel acted first, moving at half speed and turning to her starboard. Once in position, she opened fire from her medium guns. One of the shells finds its mark, destroying a battery of light guns and causing yet another fire. Colon still refuses to give up though, and her heavy turret slowly yet surely turns toward American vessel. Spanish ship opens counter-battery fire. It's a mess. Her only hope now is to turn her starboard toward enemy. Most of the gun batteries there are still operational. Cristobal slowly moves forward. Ship is partially flooded, so can make only half of her move. Unfortunately, 45 degrees turn is not enough to put American warship in a Cologne field of fire. At the end of a turn, Spanish vessel need to test for her many fires and floodings. Out of 4 floating markers, 3 are successfully contained with the 4+ rolls. In gaming terms, this doesn't mean you can totally discard those markers, only that contained markers for the time being will not cause your ship to take on more water. Unfortunately, this 1 out of 4 failure causes another roll, in which you need to add all floating markers, active or not, to the result. In this case, water again rushes into Cristobal Hall despite crew efforts. The fate of Spanish vessel is finally sealed by spreading fires which were not successfully put out, and destroyed the last point of her hull. The ship goes under while flaming inferno rages on her deck. Well, that's it, and I hope you like the material. When I think about this game, it reminds me, for some reason, it gives me impression of the Mech Warrior. Because, fundamentals are kind of similar. I played Mech Warrior like, I don't know, 20 more years ago, only a few times. But all those falling parts from your ship when it get damaged. Mainly on the artillery pieces. Just give me a Mech Warrior impression. Okay. Anyway, I enjoyed this game. Really, each time I'm playing it, I'm having a big amount of fun. And this takes me to a potentially important message about the English version. Because, well, obviously, if there was only to be Polish version, this material was just curiosity. But I was told by the creators that the English version is in works right now. It will be published sometimes this year. I can't say anything more at this point. And it probably will be done by some crowdfunding platform. That's all I can say about the English version. But, well, trust me. Well, believe me, there is something to wait for, because the game is really, it's great. In my opinion, obviously. I will be making some battle reports soon. So if this material got you interested, then, well, stay tuned for more. Okay, so anyway, this is pretty all for today, and as great Gary Bickler says, if you like what you've heard and seen, please consider subscribing. Well, if you didn't like it, well, thank you for staying that long, and, well, till the next time. Cheers!